The casket is still open when my husband steps forward and introduces the woman and child standing behind me. He calls them his family, at our daughter's funeral. Everyone turns to watch my reaction, and I give them nothing, silence. The room freezes. "This is Rebecca," Paul says, his voice steady like he's making normal introductions at a dinner party. "And this is Nathan, my son." My daughter Emma lies in white satin just 10 feet away. She was only 16. Car accident on a rainy Tuesday night. Now Paul stands beside her coffin, presenting his replacement family-like items on a menu. The chapel holds its breath. 47 people wait for me to scream, to collapse, to do something that makes sense. Aunt Patricia grips her purse tighter. Emma's teachers lean forward. Even the funeral director stops moving. I don't give them what they want. I don't give Paul what he expects. I stand perfectly still, my hands folded, my eyes straight ahead. The woman, Rebecca, shifts nervously behind me. The boy, maybe 8 years old, doesn't understand why everyone is staring. Paul's face flickers with confusion. He planned this moment. Rehearsed it, probably. But he didn't plan for silence. He didn't plan for nothing. I feel every eye burning into my back as people wait for me to scream, collapse, or faint. Paul's mother leans forward in the front pew, ready to intervene, to manage me like she always does. Her mouth opens slightly, prepared for the scene she expects. But I don't react. What they expected doesn't come. The silence stretches longer. Rebecca touches Nathan's shoulder, probably wondering if they should leave. Paul clears his throat, the sound sharp in the quiet chapel. He expected drama. He expected me to break down so he could comfort Rebecca, show everyone how reasonable he was being. Instead, I study the flowers around Emma's casket, white roses. She would have hated them. Emma loved bright colors, orange marigolds, purple daisies, anything that made people smile. But Paul's mother chose white roses because they looked appropriate. The pastor steps forward, unsure how to continue. The service was supposed to flow smoothly. Birth, life, death, moving on. No one planned for this moment where a husband introduces his affair at his daughter's funeral and the wife says nothing at all. My silence becomes its own presence in the room. It fills every corner, makes everyone uncomfortable. Paul's confidence wavers. He glances at me, then at Rebecca, then back at me. His script isn't working. Only after the service ends do I finally speak, to myself. My name is Ivy Calder, and standing beside my daughter's coffin, I realize grief didn't break me. Betrayal sharpened me. People file past Emma's casket, some crying, others whispering about what just happened. Paul stands with Rebecca and Nathan near the back, accepting condolences like a normal family. Like they belonged there. Like this made sense. I watch him shake hands and nod sadly. He's good at this, playing the devoted father who's been through so much, the man who deserves happiness after tragedy. Rebecca stays close, probably coached on how to act. The boy looks bored and confused. Emma's best friend Holly stops beside me. "Mrs. Calder, I'm so sorry," she whispers. Her eyes dart toward Paul, then back. "Emma talked about you all the time. She said you were the strongest person she knew." I squeeze Holly's hand. "Thank you for being her friend." Holly hesitates. She said things at home weren't what they seemed. Before I can respond, Holly hurries away. But her words stick. Emma knew something was wrong. Maybe more than I realized. Maybe she saw what I missed while I was working double shifts at the hospital to pay for her college fund. I walk past the woman and her child without looking at them. My husband doesn't follow me. That silence hurts him more than shouting ever could, and I see it flicker across his face. The parking lot is full of people talking in small groups. They stop when they see me, unsure what to say. How do you comfort a mother who just lost her daughter and discovered her husband's secret family in the same moment? "Ivy." Paul's voice behind me. I don't turn around. "We need to talk." I reach my car, a 10-year-old Honda that Emma helped me pick out. She loved this car because it was reliable. "Like you, Mom," she'd said. I wish she could see how reliable I'm about to be. "Ivy, please, just listen for a minute." I open the car door. The afternoon sun beats down on the parking lot. People are still watching from the chapel steps. Paul's family, Emma's teachers, neighbors who've known us for 8 years. "This isn't how I wanted you to find out," Paul continues. "But after Emma, I couldn't pretend anymore. Rebecca and Nathan need stability. They need." I get in the car and close the door. Through the windshield, I see Paul standing there, his mouth moving, his hands gesturing. He looks smaller somehow, less certain. I drive away without looking back. In my rearview mirror, I see Rebecca approaching him, probably asking what just happened. Good question. That night, he explains calmly, too calmly. He says it just happened. The timeline doesn't sit right. I nod like I believe him. Inside, something shifts. We sit in our kitchen, the same one where Emma did her homework every night. Paul makes coffee like this is a normal conversation, like he didn't humiliate me in front of everyone who mattered. Rebecca was going through a difficult divorce, he says, stirring sugar into his cup. I was helping with the legal paperwork. One thing led to another. I calculate in my head. Nathan is 8. Emma died 3 weeks ago. If this started when Paul claims, when did it start? I ask quietly. Paul looks relieved that I'm talking. He probably expected tears by now. About 10 months ago, maybe 11. It's hard to say exactly when friendship became something more. 10 months ago. I remember that time now. Emma's school play that Paul missed for a work emergency. The new cologne. The phone calls he took in the garage. The strange mood changes that I blamed on work stress. Nathan seems like a nice boy, I say. Paul's face brightens. He is. Smart kid. He's been through a lot with the divorce. He needs a father figure. I sip my coffee. It tastes like metal. Where does Rebecca work? She's a teacher at Riverside Elementary. Nathan's in 3rd grade there. Riverside Elementary, the same school where Emma volunteered, but Paul doesn't mention that connection. His parents invite me over to talk. They speak softly, carefully, like I'm unstable. I realize they knew. All of them did. And they decided I didn't deserve the truth. The Calder house sits on Maple Street, same as when Paul was growing up. His mother, Dorothy, makes tea and sets out store-bought cookies. His father, Frank, stays in his recliner, letting Dorothy handle the woman talk. We know this is difficult, dear, Dorothy says, her voice dripping with false sympathy. But sometimes life takes unexpected turns. I sit on the floral couch where Paul proposed 17 years ago. Back then, Dorothy loved me. I was good enough for her son. Now I'm an obstacle to his happiness. Paul deserves a chance at a new beginning, she continues. After losing Emma, he needs something positive to focus on. Frank nods without looking up from his newspaper. Boy's been through hell. I almost laugh. Paul's been through hell? I worked 60-hour weeks while he played house with Rebecca. I held Emma's hand in the hospital while he took business calls in the hallway. I planned my daughter's funeral while he planned his new life. Rebecca seems very nice, Dorothy adds. Nathan is a sweet child. They fit together well. Fit together. Like puzzle pieces. Like Paul and I never did. When did you meet them? I ask. Dorothy's teacup rattles slightly. Oh, just recently. Paul wanted us to know. I replay the months before our daughter died. Late nights, unexplained withdrawals, paperwork he insisted I didn't need to see. What I didn't know then was how early they started planning life without me. Back home, I sit in Emma's room. Her posters still cover the walls. Harry Potter, Taylor Swift, a picture of us at the beach last summer. She was saving money for college, working weekends at the ice cream shop. She wanted to be a teacher. I open her desk drawer and find her journal. I shouldn't read it, but I need to understand what she saw that I missed. March 15th. Dad's acting weird again. Mom doesn't notice because she's always working, but he gets these phone calls and his whole face changes. March 28th. I saw Dad at the grocery store with some woman and a little boy. He didn't see me. She was buying food like she knew exactly what he liked. April 12th. Mom thinks Dad's working late, but his car wasn't at the office when I drove by. I should tell her, but she's already so stressed about money. My hands shake as I read. Emma knew. My 16-year-old daughter was protecting me while I worked myself to death, trying to keep our family afloat. May 3rd. I think Dad has another family. The woman from the store dropped something off today when Mom was at work. An envelope with money in it. She looked nervous. Emma knew everything. And she died carrying that secret. I finally look at her. She's younger, nervous, not triumphant. When our eyes meet, I realize she was told a very different story about me. I see Rebecca at the grocery store 3 days after the funeral. She's alone, studying a shopping list like it's a final exam. When she notices me, her face goes pale. Mrs. Calder, she says quietly. I wanted to say how sorry I am about Emma. I study her face. She's maybe 30, pretty in a simple way. Not the kind of woman who steals husbands for sport. The kind who believes what she's told. Thank you, I say. Paul mentioned you're a teacher. She nods, looking relieved that I'm being civil. 3rd grade at Riverside Elementary. I actually knew Emma from the volunteer program last summer, though I didn't realize she was Paul's daughter until her voice trails off. Something cold settles in my stomach. You didn't know Emma was Paul's daughter? Rebecca's face crumbles. Paul told me his name was Paul Mason when we first met. He said he was divorced, that his ex-wife kept the original last name out of spite. When Emma introduced herself as Emma Calder during the reading program, I never made the connection. I realize how careful Paul was, how many lies he told to keep his world separate. She talked about her parents all the time, Rebecca continues, her voice getting smaller. How proud she was of her mom. How hard her mom worked. She never mentioned any problems at home, any separation. I discovered documents in a drawer I've never opened, property papers signed while I was living at the hospital. My name is missing. That's when I realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. Emma spent 2 weeks in intensive care after the accident, 2 weeks when I never left her side, sleeping in hospital chairs, eating vending machine food. Paul would visit for an hour each evening, then leave for work emergencies. Now I understand what those emergencies were. The property deed shows our house transferred to Paul Calder only. Not Paul and Ivy Calder, like it had been for 8 years. But this wasn't the deed to our current house, it was for a new property across town. A bigger house that Paul was planning to buy with Rebecca, using me as an unwilling co-signer. The bank statements are worse. Our joint savings account, where I deposited every paycheck, has been transferred to a new account. Paul's name only. The balance, $47,000. Money I earned working double shifts while Emma was in school. There are other papers. Life insurance documents with beneficiary changes, investment accounts I didn't know existed, a mortgage application for the new house that lists my income but only Paul's name as the borrower. My signature appears on everything, perfect copies. Paul practiced my handwriting, probably for weeks. While I was working, while Emma was doing homework, while I was cooking dinner and doing laundry and believing I had a marriage. But here's what Paul didn't count on. I'm still living in our original house. He was planning to move me to the new house, then sell this one from under me. I stop asking questions, I start listening. Phone calls from the hallway. Conversations that stop when I enter the room. Silence becomes my shield. Paul thinks he's won something. He moves around the house with new confidence, like he's already living in his next life. He makes plans out loud, weekend trips with Nathan, school enrollments, baseball practice schedules. I become invisible in my own home. Paul talks on the phone without lowering his voice. He assumes I'm broken, defeated, too grief-stricken to pay attention. The house should sell quickly, he tells someone, probably his lawyer. It's in a good neighborhood. Ivy won't contest it. She doesn't have the energy to fight. I wash dishes and listen. He's already picked out furniture for the new place, already enrolled Nathan in Little League, already planned a life where I don't exist. She's taking it better than expected, he says during another call. Quiet, but that's probably for the best. Makes everything easier. Makes everything easier. Like I'm a problem that solved itself. I stop cooking dinner. I stop doing his laundry. I stop pretending this is normal, but I don't leave. I don't argue. I just stop. And that makes Paul nervous in a way shouting never could. He starts watching me when he thinks I'm not looking, studying my face for clues about what I'm thinking. My husband grows careless. He thinks my quiet means defeat. He talks freely now about money, plans, custody assumptions that were never discussed with me. Nathan will need his own room. Paul says over breakfast. The blue bedroom gets good light. The blue bedroom was Emma's room, where she did homework and talked to friends and dreamed about college. Paul wants to give it to his girlfriend's son, like Emma never existed. Rebecca's worried about the transition, he continues, buttering his toast. But kids are resilient. Nathan will adjust. I drink my coffee and say nothing. Paul interprets this as agreement. We'll keep some of Emma's things, of course. The important stuff. But Nathan needs space for his own belongings. He talks about Emma like she was a roommate who moved out, Inconvenient but easily replaced. Rebecca wants to paint the living room, Paul adds. Something warmer. She says beige is depressing. I picked that paint color when we moved in 8 years ago. Emma helped me choose it. It's like a hug, she'd said, comfortable and safe. Paul's phone buzzes. He checks it and smiles. A text from Rebecca, probably. He types back quickly, his face soft in a way it hasn't been for me in months. She's making dinner tonight, he says. Nathan's excited to try her meatloaf. I remember Emma's favorite meal, spaghetti and meatballs from scratch. She always helped make the sauce, standing on a step stool when she was little. A family friend pulls me aside and tells me kindly that I should accept what's happened before things get worse. That's when I understand how alone they expect me to be. Barbara Wilson has been our neighbor for 8 years since we moved to this street. She brought casseroles when Emma was little, watched our house when we went on vacation, seemed like a genuine friend. Now she stands in her driveway, blocking my path to the mailbox. Honey, I know this is hard, she says, her voice dripping with fake concern. But Paul deserves happiness. After losing Emma, he needs something to look forward to. I wonder when everyone decided my grief was less important than Paul's. When they decided I should sacrifice my future so he could have his. Rebecca is a lovely woman, Barbara continues. And that little boy needs stability. You wouldn't want to break up a family, would you? Break up a family. Like Paul didn't break up ours. Like Emma doesn't matter now that she's gone. People are talking, Ivy, about how you're handling this. Some think you're being selfish, holding on to a marriage that's over. I realize the narrative has already been written. Paul, the grieving father who found love again. Rebecca, the innocent woman who brought joy back to his life. Nathan, the sweet boy who needs a father. And me? The bitter wife who can't let go. Sometimes the kindest thing is stepping aside, Barbara adds. For everyone's sake. For everyone's sake except mine. I meet with a professional quietly, not to attack, just to understand. What I learn confirms my fear. Decisions were made in my absence on purpose. Attorney Michelle Torres has an office downtown, above the bakery where Emma used to buy birthday cakes for her friends. Michelle is younger than I expected, sharp and direct in a way that makes me feel less invisible. These property transfers are concerning, she says, studying the documents I brought. Your husband moved quickly while you were dealing with your daughter's medical crisis. She points to the dates on the paperwork, all signed while Emma was dying. The forged signatures complicate things, Michelle continues, but they also create opportunities. This level of financial deception suggests premeditation. I hadn't thought about it that way. Premeditation. Like Paul planned Emma's accident so he could steal my life while I wasn't looking. There's something else, Michelle says. The house you're living in? According to these documents, it's already sold. Closing date is next month. My stomach drops. Sold to who? A couple using the name Henderson. But here's what's interesting. The contact information traces back to your husband's girlfriend. Rebecca Mason is listed as the alternate contact. The day after Emma's funeral, they were already planning to steal my home. So Paul and Rebecca are buying my house using fake names? I ask. Michelle nods grimly. While you were grieving your daughter, they were stealing your home. I see my husband with the boy he introduced at the funeral. He laughs easily. I realize something painful. This isn't about love. It's about replacement. They're at the park where Emma used to swing when she was Nathan's age. Paul pushes the boy on the same swing set. The same easy smile on his face. Like he's done this 1,000 times. Like Nathan is just Emma with different DNA. Rebecca sits on a bench reading a book. She looks up when Nathan calls for her attention, waves when he waves. They look like a real family, the kind that appears in commercials for breakfast cereal or family vacations. Paul catches a baseball Nathan throws, tosses it back with the same motion he used with Emma. The same encouraging words, the same proud expression. It's like watching a play where the actors got replaced, but nobody bothered to change the script. I remember Emma's last baseball game. Paul missed it for a work emergency. Now I know he was here, in this same park, with his replacement daughter's replacement family. Nathan runs to the monkey bars, the same ones Emma conquered when she was 7. Paul follows, offering the same help, the same safety tips, the same father, just with a different child. The painful truth hits me. I'm replaceable too. Paul didn't choose Rebecca because he loved her more. He chose her because she was easier. She believed his lies. She didn't ask hard questions. She let him be the hero of his own story. Emma was irreplaceable. I am not. The other woman confronts me, emotional and confused. She repeats something he told her, something provably false. Their stories no longer align. Rebecca appears at my front door on a Thursday evening, her face red from crying. Nathan isn't with her, which means this conversation was planned. I need to know the truth, she says without introduction. Paul told me you knew about us from the beginning, that you encouraged the relationship. I step aside to let her in, mainly because I'm curious what other lies Paul has been telling. He said you were relieved, Rebecca continues, pacing in my living room, that your marriage was over anyway, and this gave you both an excuse to move on. She stops in front of Emma's school picture on the mantel, the same photo that ran in the newspaper after the accident. But Emma never mentioned a separation, never mentioned her parents getting divorced. She talked about family dinners and movie nights, and how much she loved having both parents at her volleyball games. Rebecca turns to face me, tears streaming down her cheeks. Paul told me you worked all the time because you didn't want to be home, but Emma said you worked extra shifts to save for her college fund. She was proud of you. She bragged about how hard you worked. I sit down, letting Rebecca's words fill the silence. He told me you were dating someone else, Rebecca continues. A doctor from the hospital. He said that's why the divorce was so amicable. A doctor from the hospital. I almost laugh. And now Nathan's father wants him back, Rebecca says, her voice breaking. He's threatening to take me to court. He says I'm unfit for getting involved with a married man. My husband files paperwork, assuming I won't contest it. His family celebrates quietly. They think I've accepted my place. They're wrong. The divorce papers arrive on a Monday morning, delivered by a process server who apologizes for the timing. Paul must have filed them while I was at Emma's grave, where I go every morning to talk to her about everything he's done. The papers request nothing for me. No alimony, no property division, no consideration for 17 years of marriage. Just a clean break so Paul can start fresh with Rebecca and Nathan. At the bottom, there's a place for my signature. Paul probably assumes I'll sign without reading, like I signed the mortgage papers and bank transfers while Emma was dying. Like the grief-broken wife who doesn't understand legal language. But I've learned to read the fine print. I've learned to look for what's missing. The custody section is blank because Emma is gone. The asset division section grants everything to Paul. The debt section makes me responsible for Emma's medical bills, even though Paul carried the insurance that didn't cover experimental treatments. There's a timeline attached. Paul wants the divorce finalized in 30 days. Quick and clean. No mess, no public drama, just efficient disposal of an inconvenient wife. That afternoon, I drive past the larger house Paul is buying for himself and Rebecca. I know from Michelle's research that they're using my stolen money for the down payment. There's a swing set in the backyard, already assembled. A welcome mat by the front door that says "Our New Beginning." A formal letter arrives that he wasn't expecting. His calm slips for the first time. I still don't raise my voice. Attorney Michelle Torres doesn't waste words. Her letter to Paul is short, direct, and arrives via certified mail, so he has to sign for it. I watch from the kitchen window as Paul reads it on the front porch. His face goes through several expressions: confusion, then understanding, then something close to panic. He reads it twice, then pulls out his phone and makes a quick call. 20 minutes later, he finds me folding laundry in the bedroom we used to share. "What is this?" he says, waving Michelle's letter. "Why are you involving lawyers?" I continue folding Emma's clothes. "I'm donating them to the children's hospital, where other sick kids might need soft pajamas and comfortable shirts. Fraud is a serious accusation, Ivy. You could get in trouble for making false claims." I hold up one of Emma's favorite t-shirts, bright yellow with a smiling sun. She wore it the last day before the accident. "Your lawyer is filling your head with nonsense," Paul continues. "This is a simple divorce between two adults. No one needs to get hurt. No one needs to get hurt. Except me, apparently." "I've been more than fair," Paul says, his voice getting tighter. I'm not asking you for anything. You can keep your car, your personal belongings. Rebecca doesn't want to cause problems. I place Emma's shirt in the donation box and reach for another one. Ivy, talk to me. This silent treatment is childish. We need to resolve this like adults. His parents start calling more often. The tone changes, from pity to concern. They sense something shifting, but don't know what. Dorothy Calder calls 3 times in one afternoon. The first call is casual, checking on my emotional state and suggesting grief counseling. The second call is more pointed, reminding me that Paul deserves happiness and that holding on to bitterness helps no one. The third call is different. Ivy, dear, I think there might be some misunderstanding about the legal situation. I'm cooking dinner for one, something I've gotten used to. Paul hasn't been home for meals since Rebecca started making him meatloaf. Paul's attorney says you've hired someone. Dorothy continues. That seems unnecessary, don't you think? Family matters should stay in the family. Family matters, like Paul's affair, like stealing my money, like erasing me from property we bought together. Frank thinks we should all sit down and talk this through, clear the air before things get complicated. Before things get complicated. They're already complicated, Dorothy. They've been complicated since Paul chose Rebecca over honesty. You were such a good wife to Paul, Dorothy says, her voice softer now, and a wonderful mother to Emma. No one wants to see you hurt more than you already have been. But someone already decided I would be hurt. They just didn't expect me to do anything about it. Call me back, dear. We can work this out together. Together. The way we worked out Paul's affair together. Someone from the funeral asks him a question he can't answer cleanly. Whispers begin. The story he told doesn't hold up outside the family. Paul's boss, Mr. Franklin, stops by on a Saturday afternoon. Paul isn't home. He's at Nathan's baseball practice, playing the devoted stepfather for Rebecca's benefit. Mrs. Calder, Mr. Franklin says, standing awkwardly on my front porch. I wanted to express my condolences again. Emma was a special young lady. I invite him in for coffee. Mr. Rayett, Franklin has known Paul for 8 years, since Paul left his previous job at the insurance company to join the accounting firm. He's a good man, honest, the kind who notices when things don't add up. I hope you don't mind me asking, he says carefully. But Paul mentioned that you two are going through some changes. He requested family leave to help with his son's transition to a new school. His son. Not Rebecca's son. His son. Paul's always been private about personal matters, Mr. Franklin continues. But at the funeral, when he introduced his family, well, it seemed sudden. Has he been married before? I realize Mr. Franklin is trying to make sense of what he saw at Emma's funeral. Paul introducing Rebecca and Nathan as his family while standing next to his actual wife. Paul and I have been married for 17 years, I say simply. We've never been separated. Franklin's coffee cup pauses halfway to his mouth. Oh, I see. I must have misunderstood. But he didn't misunderstand. He saw exactly what everyone saw. A man introducing his affair at his daughter's funeral. The woman panics. She realizes she was never protected, only hidden. She starts asking for assurances he can't give. Rebecca comes to my house for the second time, but this time she's angry. Nathan waits in her car, playing with a handheld game. Paul lied to me, she says without preamble. About everything. The separation, the divorce, all of it. She paces across my living room like a caged animal. Her careful composure is gone, replaced by the frantic energy of someone who realizes she's been played. I trusted him, she continues. I introduced Nathan to him. I let Nathan get attached. I thought we were building something real. She stops in front of Emma's bookshelf, running her finger along the spines of books Emma will never read again. He told me you didn't want children, Rebecca says quietly, that Emma was an accident, that you resented being a mother. The lie hits me like a physical blow. Emma was planned, wanted, celebrated. The center of my world from the moment I knew she existed. But Emma's room, Rebecca continues, it's not the room of an unwanted child. It's full of love, pictures, awards, memories. You were a good mother. She turns to face me, tears streaming down her face. What am I supposed to tell Nathan? He thinks Paul is going to be his father. He's already calling him dad. Paul collected another family while destroying mine. And now that family is breaking apart too, because lies eventually collapse under their own weight. Blame starts bouncing between them. His sister distances herself. His parents argue behind closed doors. I'm no longer the problem, they are. Paul's sister, Christine, shows up unannounced on a Wednesday evening. She hasn't spoken to me since the funeral, when she stood beside Paul during his announcement and said nothing. This is getting out of hand, she says, not bothering with pleasantries. Paul is making mistakes, and the whole family is paying for it. Christine is older than Paul, married to a lawyer, used to managing family crises. But this crisis is bigger than her usual expertise. Mother is embarrassed, Christine continues. Again, people are talking, the church group, the country club, everyone wants to know what really happened at Emma's funeral. What happened was the truth came out. Paul's perfect facade cracked in public, and now everyone can see the rot underneath. Paul told the pastor you were having a breakdown, Christine says. That the introduction was your idea, part of your healing process. Another lie. Paul has a lie for every audience, every situation. But lies multiply faster than he can manage them. The problem is, Christine continues, people remember what they saw. And what they saw doesn't match what Paul's saying now. She sits down without being invited, looking tired. His lawyer says the fraud allegations are serious, that you could cause real problems if you push this. Real problems. For Paul. Not for me, the woman whose life he stole while she was watching her daughter die. Mother wants to know what you want, Christine says finally. What it will take to make this go away quietly. While they unravel, I build. New routines, new support, a future that doesn't include begging for honesty. I stop waiting for closure. The hospital where I worked as a nurse for 8 years offers me a transfer when I explain my situation. They need someone in the children's wing, not as a nurse, but as a patient advocate. Someone to help families navigate insurance, understand treatment options, deal with the administrative nightmare of pediatric care. You've seen it from both sides, the director tells me. You understand medical procedures from your nursing background, but you also understand what it's like to be the parent sitting in that waiting room. The volunteer coordinator, Susan, knew Emma during her stay. She remembers how Emma organized games for the younger children, how she shared her books with kids who were scared or lonely. She had your strength, Susan tells me. But she also had something extra. Hope, maybe. The ability to find joy even when things were dark. The transition from nursing to advocacy feels natural. I'm still helping people heal, just in a different way. I read stories to children who might not live to see adulthood. I help families understand their rights when insurance companies deny claims. At home, I clean out closets and drawers, removing traces of the life I thought I had. Paul's clothes, his books, his coffee mug collection. Everything goes into boxes that I leave in the garage. I change the locks. Paul has a key to the house he tried to steal, but not to the house where I actually live. Everything comes out at once. Documents, timelines, contradictions. Publicly, legally, irreversibly. The family that once controlled the narrative loses it completely. The local newspaper runs the story on a Thursday morning. Not front page, but prominent enough. Local businessman accused of forgery, financial fraud. Paul's picture appears next to an article that outlines the charges. Forged signatures, property theft, financial deception while his wife dealt with their daughter's medical crisis. The timeline is damning. By afternoon, the story spreads to social media. Emma's friends share it, adding their own memories of her talking about her parents' strong marriage. The contrast between Emma's words and Paul's actions becomes stark. Rebecca's ex-husband, who had been threatening custody action since discovering her relationship with Paul, sees the story and immediately files his emergency motion. The newspaper article gives him exactly the ammunition he needed, proof that Rebecca involved their son with a man under criminal investigation. Nathan loses another father figure overnight. Rebecca, faced with losing her son entirely, cuts all contact with Paul to protect her custody chances. She moves back in with her parents and starts family counseling to prove her stability to the court. Paul's accounting firm places him on administrative leave pending investigation. Clients don't want their finances handled by someone accused of stealing from his own wife. The house purchase falls through when Rebecca withdraws from the plan. Without her teacher's salary and good credit, Paul can't qualify for the mortgage alone. Paul's perfectly planned new life disintegrates in 72 hours. My husband finally understands what my silence meant. He tries to speak to me, really speak, for the first time since the funeral. I don't give him what he wants. Paul comes home on a Friday evening, using his old key to discover the locks have been changed. He stands on the porch where we used to sit together in the evenings, where Emma would show us her homework and talk about her day. I open the door but don't invite him in. I know you're angry, he starts, and you have every right to be. I handled things badly. Badly, like forgetting to put gas in the car or leaving dishes in the sink. I was grieving too, Ivy. Emma was my daughter. When she died, I couldn't think straight. I made mistakes. Mistakes, not choices, not betrayals. Mistakes. Rebecca is gone, Paul continues. Nathan's father got custody. It's over between us. He says this like it's a sacrifice he's making for me, like he chose to end it rather than losing everything because of his own lies. I want to try again, Paul says. Fix our marriage, get counseling, start over. Start over, like Emma never existed, like the last year never happened, like trust can be rebuilt on a foundation of lies. I know I hurt you, Paul continues, but we can work through this. We're both grieving. We both miss Emma. That's something to build on. He's using Emma's memory to manipulate me, using our shared grief as a tool to get what he wants. I step back and close the door. The conversation is over because I never allowed it to begin. I walk away with my dignity intact and my future secured. I didn't scream. I didn't destroy him. I just stopped protecting the lie. And that was enough. 6 months later, I sell the house Paul tried to steal from me. The legal battle established my ownership clearly, and the publicity actually increased its value. People want to buy the house where the fraud victim made her stand. I move closer to the city, near the children's hospital where I now work full-time as a patient advocate. It's not the career I planned, but it's the one Emma would have chosen for me, helping families navigate medical crises, protecting them from the kind of people who prey on grief. Paul and I are divorced now. The settlement included fraud penalties that left him with almost nothing. He lives in a studio apartment across town and works for a small firm that doesn't mind hiring someone with a criminal record. Rebecca sends me a Christmas card every year. She married Nathan's father again, rebuilt the family Paul temporarily destroyed. In her cards, she always mentions how sorry she is, how she should have known, how she hopes I can forgive her someday. I already have. She was a victim too, just a different kind. On Emma's birthday, I visit her grave with flowers she would have chosen. Bright orange marigolds, purple daisies, anything that makes people smile. I tell her about my work, about the families I help, about the children who remind me of her strength. And I tell her that I never screamed that day in the chapel, that I stayed silent long enough to win. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to react the way people expect. If you were in my place, would you have screamed that day in the chapel or stayed silent long enough to win?